Parkinson's disease is an age-related disease affecting nerve cells in the brain that produce dopamine. Parkinson's symptoms include muscle rigidity, tremors, and changes in speech and gait. After diagnosis, treatment may be given to relieve symptoms, but there is no cure. According to World Health Organization, mental health and mental disorders are not regarded with the same importance as physical health. Indeed, they have been neglected and ignored, which is why as a student, I will advocate on a mental illness that is low self-esteem, and I will explain the effect it has on a human's life and the human body. Hi, I am Rebecca Chavez and welcome to my Psych Talk. For today's episode, I will have two parts. Part 1 will be a psych education portion about Parkinson's disease, and Part 2 will be a mental health advocacy about self-esteem. Now let's begin this episode with psych education about Parkinson's disease. Let's go! Parkinson's symptoms usually begin gradually and get worse over time. As the disease progresses, people may have difficulty walking and talking. And in addition to these motor-related symptoms, Parkinson's symptoms may also be unrelated to motor symptoms, which we call non-motor symptoms. In fact, patients with PD are often more impacted by their non-motor symptoms than their motor symptoms. Examples of these unrelated to movement symptoms would be apathy, depression, constipation, sleep behavior disorders, change of sense of smell, and cognitive impairment.
Both men and women can have Parkinson's disease. However, 50% more men are affected compared to women. Now, age is one clear risk factor in PD. Although most people develop the disease at around 60, some or 5 to 10% are affected by early onset forms. Early onset forms come before the age of 50. Some of these early onset forms have been shown or evidenced to be inherited, while some have been linked to specific gene mutations.
According to Mayo Clinic, carbidopa-levodopa is the most effective medical treatment for Parkinson's. This process uses a natural chemical that passes through the brain and is converted to dopamine. Now, let's look at Parkinson's disease in an evolutionary perspective. There are two central premises to this evolutionary view of Parkinson's disease. First, PD is specific human disease. Second, the prevalence of Parkinson's disease has increased over the course of human history. Several lines of evidence may explain why PD appears to be restricted to human species. The major manifestations of PD are the consequence of degeneration in the dopamine-synthesizing neurons of the mesostrial neuronal pathway. It is of note the enormous expansion of the human dopamine mesencephalic neurons onto the striatum compared with other mammals. The apparently low prevalence of PD before the 20th century may be related to the shorter life expectancy and survival compared to present times. Technological advances have led to a dramatic reduction of physical exercise since the brain release of neurotrophic factors, including brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is partially exercise-related. The marked reduction in exercise may contribute to the increasing prevalence of PD. And that is it for the evolutionary perspective of Parkinson's disease. I would want to end part 1 with telling you how you can help those suffering from Parkinson's disease. Well, contributing to the Michael J. Fox Foundation and Shake It Up Foundation by Clyde Campbell would be very beneficial. These are the largest non-government funders for Parkinson's research across multiple institutes in Australia. Hence, it would be very helpful to donate to funds like these to help those who are suffering from PD. We all have times when we don't feel good about ourselves or lack the confidence. But when low self-esteem becomes a long-term problem, this can have a detrimental effect to our mental health and our day-to-day lives. First, let us establish what is self-esteem. Self-esteem is the opinion we have about ourselves. When we have a healthy self-esteem, we tend to feel more positive about ourselves and our life in general. We are able to deal better with life's challenges. On the other hand, when we have low self-esteem, we tend to see ourselves and our lives in a critical and more negative light. In addition, we are less able to take on life's challenges. Now, although self-esteem is not always categorized as a mental illness in itself, when we have a low self-esteem, it can be very dangerous to our overall emotional and mental well-being. What causes low self-esteem? Number one begins in childhood, with our friends, our family, our teachers, and even social media tends to give us positive and negative messages about ourselves. Unfortunately, the negative messages are the ones that tend to stay with us. Number two, perhaps you found it difficult to live up to other people's expectations or even your own expectations for yourself. Number three would be stress and other serious illnesses. Stress and difficult life events can have a very big impact on one's self-esteem. And lastly would be personality. Some people are just more prone to negative thinking, while others set impossibly high standards for themselves. According to National Alliance on Mental Illness, here are 2 ways your low self-esteem can affect your mental health. Number 1 would be addiction. Psychological studies indicate that low self-esteem in childhood and early adulthood can serve as a predisposition to addiction in later life. Many addicts use substances such as drugs and alcohol to help ease the way they feel about themselves. Unfortunately, this method of escapism has even more detrimental effects to their already depleted self-esteem.
Another way low self-esteem can affect mental health is depression and anxiety. The explanation here is that low self-esteem tends to work in a vicious cycle with other mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. It's hard to say which comes first, only that the combination of both is very common and also troublesome. Someone who already lives in a mental illness may find that low self-esteem develops due to the social stigma surrounding mental illness. Stigma in mental illness can perpetuate the feeling that they have somehow failed in life. Now, let us go to the solution: building self-esteem. Building self-esteem is crucial. When we learn to love ourselves, we strive for a better life, a happier relationship, a more fulfilling career, or even recovery from addiction. But changing deep-rooted feelings we have about ourselves isn't easy, and experts often recommend cognitive behavioral therapy to get to the underlying reasons about our negative thoughts about ourselves. Number 2, the key then is to change your negative thoughts into more positive ones. Number 3, learning to value and care for your mind and body through a healthy lifestyle is so important. Good diet, exercise, and meditation could be good ways to start this healthy lifestyle. Number 4 would be fully engaging with those we love. Feeling loved and supported and being able to offer love and support is a very good way to help boost your self-esteem. If you don't have friends or family to do this with, you can always help in charities and donate to others, because helping others is a very good way to help ourselves. In addition to this would be joining a support group and volunteering.
To end this episode, I am going to recap about my mental health advocacy. A long-term poor self-esteem is a mental illness that can lead to psychiatric disorders such as depression and anxiety. A person may also develop unhelpful habits such as smoking or drinking too much as a way of coping. Unfortunately, society stigmatizes openly talking about mental health issues. This can be very upsetting, especially if someone who feels this way is a family member, colleague, or a healthcare professional. The question, how can I deal with stigma against mental health problems? Here are some options to think about. Number 1, show people reliable information to help them understand more about what your diagnosis really means. Number 2, get more involved in your treatment and recovery. Number 3, talk about your story. Share your experiences so that people can improve in understanding your situation and they can change their attitudes. Number 4, contact an advocate. Number 5, you yourself get involved in campaigns. That is all for today's episode.